Hello, and welcome to my first tutorial. I'll be covering how to play my card game, Gemstones Knucklebones. This has been a project for about a year now, and it's officially something I would say is playable and fun. A quick summary, Gemstones is a game all about building a strong character using the game's unique dice collecting and stacking mechanics. Each player is going to have to work together to survive an onslaught of monsters, and whoever takes down the most wins. The game is entirely playable through my Tabletop simulator mod, or I have a print and play version available as well, with a 3D model for printing out a game box as well if you have it. Alright, we can get into setting up to play the game. I'll be teaching how to play the game through Tabletop Simulator, but playing in person is the same, just with less tech. So first things first, you'll want to have all your players spawn in around the table just by loading into the mod. Everyone comes in and they get to pick whatever color they want to play as, no doubles. Once everyone's seated, any seat that's empty, you can delete their cards, resources, and everything. There's a trash bag right here. Let's do a quick inventory of the pieces. Immediately you have a big box of dice, a whole horde of them. A dice tower for that. The rule book is right here. Character cards are right beside them. Then we have the room cards, 1 to 5. Then you should have an exit token, 45 injury tokens. This is a round counter. Above it we have the 6 kinds of monsters, 1 through 6, and a pile of 30 upgrades. That should be everything in the center. And then for each player, you'll start with instructions for setting up the game, which we're doing here, and a reference sheet for the player, which covers questions that may come up, strategies, tips, reminders, and each player also has a ton of pieces to pick through. While everyone's setting up, feel free to grab something you want. Alright, first for setup, each player will get a character sheet. Currently there's only 6 unique ones, so if you're playing with 8 players, you would pull 2 out of the deck randomly, and then you would copy these. Then you'll want to return these to the deck, and then you have 8 to split between the 8 players. Having duplicate character sheets isn't the end of the world. Everyone's character will be built pretty differently. But the character sheets are all pretty different. I would say the axe is the simplest, but it's not too weak. It's a great one for people just starting out. Once everyone is given their character sheet, you will create the entrance and exit room. You will want to just get a dice. Hopefully you have one lying around. And just roll it. You will take that room and just put it somewhere on the table. Don't flip it over, and put an exit on it. If you were to roll a 6, that just means you get to pick which room goes in. None of them are a bad choice, they just have different pros and cons. Alright, with your board ready to go, you can begin making characters. Each player is given 6 dice. Don't worry about the colors, they don't matter. Everyone is given the dice, and you want to roll all 6. With these, you're going to use them to build your basic abilities. So you'll be assorting these dice onto this sheet. Make sure you only put dice in numbers that they match. You can stack as many as you want in the same spot, and sometimes this even makes effects much better. So you have your HP, your damage, and your bag. So within HP, you will only ever have 1 dice, and you will always have 1 dice. So let's start at 4 HP. Note that if you start with a higher number for HP, you'll suffer more when you're injured. Alright, damage time. Pretty important to know, whenever you put a dice into damage or HP, it cannot be moved around anymore. But with your bag, you can always pull a dice out of your bag and into a damage slot. Think of this as putting a gemstone into your sword to power it up. So once an effect has a dice beside it, that effect is activated. Effects that don't have dice do nothing at all. And let's cover your bag. Every single dice you have, even if you're not using it, when it's not in HP, not in damage, you keep it in your bag. And whenever you do an attack, the dice you roll are dice from your bag. So when making your character, make sure you have at least one left here. And that's the basic of making your character. Once made, you'll grab your player piece and put it in the starting room. Then, pick who's going to start. Movement time. Let's look around this dungeon and see what we can find. Exploring it is the main way you'll get more dice and find some monsters to fight. So, on your turn, you'll be given 3 moves to use. Moving is very basic. If you are in a room that's attached to another room, you can use a single move to move your piece to it. For one of your 3 moves, you can venture. To venture, you would discover a new room by just walking into an empty space. So when you do this, you will roll a dice and put in a room that matches that number, like this. So if you rolled a 6, you got to pick which room it is. This has to fit properly, otherwise it can't be placed there. If you had this, if it does not fit, then use the room of a number lower. So from 2, we go down to 1, because that does work. So once you've picked the room that would go there, you flipped up to see the effect. So you'll be told what to do. This does nothing at all. This one would put in 2 gems, or 2 dice. So you would take that many dice from the pile, roll them, and again, put them in your bag, because that's where they go. And make sure they are stacked in the correct slots. These 3 should be in the 3 slot, not the 1. So, if instead of a gem symbol, you were to get a teeth symbol like this, that means you'll be putting monsters in the room. You can only put gems in a room when there's no monsters in it. So let's say we have 2 in here. Just put them in like that. A good thing to know about movement is these do not stop you from moving. You can just freely move in and out of rooms with monsters in them and with players in them. Turns and rounds. So let's figure out who gets to go first. For the first round, again, pick randomly. Use whatever method everyone agrees with. But for round 2 and onwards, the player with the least dice will get to go first. This is, if you have the least dice, you can catch up by hopefully picking up some dice off the ground. So when everyone has taken their turn, the round ends, and you will move the round counter up 1. Like so. So on your turn, you will have 1 attack and 3 moves. Again, for one of those moves, you can use it to find a new room. Also, on your turn, there's no limit to these. If you're in the same room as another player, you can freely trade dice only from your bag to each other. You can also trade upgrades with each other, which we'll get into further. While it's not your turn, you can still edit your character by moving dice into damage, just not the other way around, and same thing with upgrades. Combat. Well, you've got a weapon, and there's some crawlies that are looking dangerous. How do you fight? First, you have to be in the same room as the monster you're attacking. There's some effects that let you fight other players. For those, you also have to be in the same room. So, you can only attack the monster on the top of the pile. You treat ones underneath the top as if they're just not there. So, for your attack, you're going to need your bag effect and your damage effects. All character sheets have different ways to roll dice. Use this to figure out how many dice you roll. The axe is extremely simple, but for example, the flail rolls dice equal to what the person before them rolled. So, you declare an attack. From your bag, you remove all the dice you're going to be rolling. 3. You pick which ones, and you roll them. This is also a good way to change a dice into something else. We didn't want the 1, and now it's turned into a 3. In fact, you're allowed to attack nothing at all, just if you want to reroll some of your dice. So, once you've rolled, you can then look at your damage effects. Only use the effects that have 1 or more dice beside them. So, in this example, more than half of our dice are 2s, so we deal 1 damage. So, once you add up all the damage you do, 1, you put that many injuries on that monster. So if this is more injuries than its HP, congrats, it's been killed. And then you can move it beside your sheet. This will be worth 3 points at the end of the game. You may have noticed that the way that you have to deal damage is pretty weak, and the monsters are only going to get stronger. So in the game, you will get better and more complicated effects. For example, some of these effects use an X. This is good to know. X simply means you replace the letter X with the number of dice stacked there. So, if these were all 4s, and we had 3 4s in this stack. I'm not good at stacking dice. Then we would say if you only roll a 3, each one deals 1 damage. A bit complicated, but if you read through it, it will get to it. Now, instead of X, there's also this number effects. When a card says this number, you replace it with the value of the dice there. So, if you roll this number and a 6, which this number is a 5, deal 2 damage. So again, whenever it says this number, you just replace it with this value. Alright, health points. Congrats on dealing some damage. So what happens when you get hit back? Just like the monsters, you'll be taking some injuries. Pretty simple. Whenever you take damage, if you were dealt 3 damage, and you started at 5, you move your HP dice down 3 slots. But you keep the 5 on top. Alright, let's say you take another 4 damage. Any damage that puts you below 0 doesn't carry over, so just set it to 0. When this happens, you've been injured. So you'll put an injury somewhere on your sheet, scatter some dice, and get a new HP. First, let's do the injury. Grab one of these tokens, put it over any slot that doesn't have an injury. The slot has some dice in it, you have to scatter those dice. As long as the slot has an injury in it, it is completely useless, and you can never put a dice there. So for damage with injuries, that means the effect beside it will never be activated. For HP with injuries, it means that it is ignored. For example, let's say you're at a full 5 again. You have an injured 4, and you only take 1 damage. Taking the 1 damage would have you hop right over the 4 down to the 3. And finally, bag injuries. As long as that slot is covered, you'll never be allowed to pick up that dice. If you found a 3 on the floor, you can't add it to your bag. If you roll a 3, you don't get to put it back in your bag. Instead, it'll be scattered instead of going in your bag. Now, scattering. So again, when your HP hits 0, look at your HP dice. You'll need to scatter that many dice. One of them will be your HP dice. That's why having a big HP can be kind of a downside. So when you're getting rid of these dice, they can come out of anywhere, not just your bag. So once you pick all the dice you're losing, roll them all. So of this pile, you'll pick one of these to be your new HP. the same way you did at the start of character creation. So for the rest of them, they'll be simply moved to a room that matches the number. For example, if you had a 4, you'd move it into a T. If there aren't any rooms that match, example, we have no 2s, no corners, sorry, you do just return them back to the big horde. So if it is your turn, and you're in a room with a dice in it, and you have no monsters there, you simply put this one back in your bag. But anyone can do this, so watch out for thieves who will grab the dice you leave behind. Scattering can happen from other effects, not just your HP hitting 0. Monsters. Let's take a closer look at the things that are hurting us. Monsters are intended to be pretty strong, and the players are going to have to work together to take them down. They don't start out super strong, though. They have levels, which is capped by the round number. So, using the round tracker, if it was round 5, only level 3 and weaker monsters can spawn. Spawning a monster is very simple. So, whenever a room would put in a monster, for each monster, roll a dice and put a monster that matches that level in the room. If you rolled above the cap, then put a monster at the cap. So, putting 2 in at round 5, you'd roll 2 dice. Or a dice twice. If you rolled a 2 and a 4, you'd put down a level 2. And because the max is 3, you'd put down a level 3. 2 goes down first, and then the 3 on top of that. Let's look at these cards. We do keep them pretty simple. HP is how much damage it takes to kill it. The stars are the level of the monster, and each one's 1 point at the end of the game. And then here is where the monster's dropped dice are. 1 killed, destroyed. The player that killed it will get these dice. So you would get a dice and set it to match the number. And then put it in your bag. You'd have to drop it here because you have it injured though. So you'll notice that there's an R. For R dice, that means random. You would just roll your dice before putting it in your bag. There's also S dice, which is set. You set that dice to whatever number you want, and then put it in your bag. These monsters aren't just going to sit around and let you hit them. Some of them will even chase you around. Whoever has the least dice at the end of their round will be the monster's DM, and will have a small amount of control over them. So, when a monster moves, it will usually tell you how it moves. If it has a few options, again, the monster DM will get to choose. The monster DM must always select the option that damages a player, even if it would be themselves. So monster movement and effects can get pretty wacky. At the end of a round, often a bunch will want to happen simultaneously. To resolve effects, do them left to right in reading order. So, if a monster would move and uncover another monster, that one will also get an effect, if able. If a monster moves and then covers a monster, that monster no longer does its effect. While a monster is covered, it doesn't do anything at all. Whenever a monster is uncovered or spawns in, this is considered being revealed. Some effects use this. You may have recalled me mentioning upgrades in previous sections. Taking down monsters is how you get upgrades. So, when the first monster of its level dies, each player will draw 1 upgrade into their hand. So you'll just mark this off by covering the round tracker level with an injury. So the first time a 2-star dies, cover this, and then deal all players an upgrade. It's time to start dealing some real damage. You'll notice the upgrades match the color of your damage effects, and they fit right on top of them. At any point, as long as it doesn't interrupt anything, you can move around your upgrades, add them to your sheet, remove them. You're just trying to maximize what you can do. So, as long as an upgrade box covers an effect box completely, you use the effect on the upgrade card. You can get pretty clever with this. By overlapping upgrades, you can cover the weaker effects, and you can even have a box hanging off the card if you're not using them. Just this one would be used. But, as always, if a slot has an injury, it will have no effect no matter how many upgrades you stack on top of it. Collapsing. Well, you've been scraping by and getting a pile of dice and monster trophies. But the dungeon is only going to stay open for so long. So, at any point, feel free to leave the dungeon. You just need to be in the exit with no monsters in it. To exit, anytime on your turn, just move your player piece out of the dungeon and onto your character sheet. You can't be damaged or interacted with at all while you're here. Go get some boba tea. There can be very good reasons to exit too. Sooner or later, the dungeon will begin to collapse. So, as you discover rooms, as you explore, you may find these collapse cards. So, after round 5, collapse cards can begin their effects. So, after all the monsters have gone at the end of the round, for each collapse card, you'll roll a dice. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Unless a 1 is rolled. When a 1 is rolled, collapse has now begun. Nothing can undo it. So now, at the end of each round, every single room that's attached to a blank space will collapse. So, when a room collapses, remove it from the board. All dice and monsters in the room that collapsed will just be discarded. If a player's in the room and the room collapses, they set their HP to 0, take an injury as normal, and scatter their dice as normal. And then the player can put themselves in any room that was attached to the room that collapsed. If you were in a room that collapsed that wasn't attached to anything, sorry, but you fell in the pit. You remove yourself from the game, score 0 points. So, you may find yourself totally stranded at the start of a round. This is rough, but you can make it back by discovering a room and attaching it to the exit. You can still get out, because you can do 1 discovery per turn. Carve yourself a path to the exit. However, if the exit is ever destroyed, you're never leaving. Your character is lost to the dungeon, you're never returning to the surface. 0 points. Ending the game. Congrats to whoever made it out. It's time to profit. You exit, and then begin tallying points. Each monster nets you 1 point per star. Count them up. For each injury you have, you'll lose 2 points. And now it's time for the weird scoring. So, for every single room that wasn't destroyed, find the ones with effects. These will let you get some points elsewhere. 1 point for each 6 you have in your bag. You lose 3 points, even more evens than odds. If you're smart, as you're exploring, you'll note these cards and try and work towards these bonuses to get more points. But you can't rely on them too much. If your favorite room is destroyed, you don't get to use it for any points at all. You may be wondering how you could possibly lose if you're playing single player. So, it's just you and yourself. You exit all by your lonesome. To see if you win or lose, you look at the round counter. So, you roll a dice for the highest level of monster unlocked. So, 3 dice. Then, you will tally these dice. And if you score higher than this, so higher than a 7, you've won. Otherwise, it would be a loss for the solitaire player. Ending the video. Alright, everyone. From setup to ending the game, that is Gemstones and Knucklebones. Hopefully I've tricked some of you into practicing some basic math. I really recommend this game for people looking to get into RPGs. It's a nice little hour and amuse-bouche of what you can expect from dungeon crawling and dice rolling. It's definitely more lightweight than a true tabletop role-playing game. Thanks for watching, thanks for learning. I'm always looking for feedback, always implementing it right up until the game's done. Email included below.